Please welcome United States Army Medical Activity Commander at Fort Campbell, Colonel Paul Courts.
General Cohn, General Cody, Lieutenant General Retired Castellaw, Lieutenant General Retired Smith, Dr. Kelly, Mr. Winters, Mr. White, civilian aides to the Secretary of the Army for Tennessee and Kentucky, Mrs. McConville, Mrs. Smith, Brigadier General and Mrs. Stammer, Mrs. Pappas, Fort Campbell champions, and our formal National Intrepid Center of Excellence and Warrior Resiliency and Recovery Center soldier patients, and our distinguished guests and visitors, welcome. In addition, I would like to say a special thank you to GKK Works Construction Services in preparing this construction site for today's special event. Welcome to today's ceremony, culminating the efforts of the Department of Defense, the Department of the Army, Army Medicine, and the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund, Mr. Arnold Fisher, and the American people. June 13, 2013 will go down in history as the day we broke ground celebrating the construction of this $12 million facility. Our Warrior Resiliency and Recovery team, along with pain management and our neurology teams, have provided nearly 32,000 visits in the past 2 years to soldiers with traumatic brain injuries, post-traumatic stress, acute pain, and neurological needs. Our soldiers have received excellent multidisciplinary traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress services since the Warrior Resiliency and Recovery Center opened in October 2008. However, the National Intrepid Center of Excellence satellite, Intrepid Spirit 3, will allow our dedicated multidisciplinary team to provide interdisciplinary, holistic, warrior, and family-centered care to patients with complex needs, while contributing to and supporting research and education by connecting with other such centers and the National Intrepid Center of Excellence in Bethesda, Maryland. The mission of the NICO is directly aligned with the Army's concussion and mild traumatic brain injury management strategy to educate, train, treat, and track. Educate by promoting prevention, training in both the deployed and garrison settings, treat by delivering integrated care and services from the point of injury to return to duty or transition from active duty, maximizing function and quality of life, and track by identifying soldiers at potential risk. These collaborative efforts will provide a wellness approach by empowering the soldier and family member to heal. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Alpha Company, Warrior Transition Battalion at Fort Campbell, Staff Sergeant Todd DeMorsi.
Thank you. What an honor and privilege it is to be here by invite. I mean, this is amazing to me. Well, good morning. First of all, I will say what an honor it is for me to be here. And thank you for asking me to be a part of the ceremony. Everybody that's involved here. I joined the Army in 1998 as an infantryman. In 2003, I was transferred to Fort Hood, Texas. Only a few months later, I left my wife and my six-month-old son for a year in hell, otherwise known as Sadr City in Baghdad, Iraq. After dodging bullets, mortar rounds, roadside bombs for 7 months straight, I took some well-needed R&R. I got to go home and be home with my family for 2 weeks. Little did I know, after returning from the war zone, that would be the last time that anyone got to see Todd DeMorsi as himself. On December 27, 2004, while on a routine patrol, my vehicle was struck with 2 IEDs simultaneously. One of the bombs was a ball-bearing IED that sent metal fragments everywhere, including spots in my face, neck, and my arm. The blast threw my vehicle across the road, killed my gunner instantly, tore my driver's arm apart, and changed my life forever. The old me was gone, and the new me was born. A large piece of metal came through the windshield and nearly went through my Kevlar helmet. The shrapnel hit my head so hard that it fractured my skull, caused multiple contusions and swelling on my brain. I was only unconscious for about 10 minutes, but when I came to, I was in shock. I was told that I had no idea that I was injured until I took my gloved hand to itch my forehead. I bumped my helmet, and that's when blood started pouring down my head and my face like a waterfall. Immediately, one of my buddies got me into another vehicle and rushed me back to the aid station. It was about a mile away. My scalp was torn quite badly and had to be stitched up right over my hair. I also had one of my teeth blown out, metal burns on the back of my left arm, dime-sized pieces of metal embedded in my temple, cheek, jaw, and ear. And I was medevac out of there by helicopter to eventually arrive back in Texas 12 days later. For the next 6 months, I was completely dependent on my wife for basic care. My severe vertigo, unbearable headache pain, and I was definitely not myself. I was completely isolated myself from the world. I isolated myself from my wife and my son who lived in the same house. I was trapped in my own prison, my heart, and my mind. I eventually improved, went back to work, changed my job out of the infantry, went on with my military career. I have absolutely no memory of the blast or the 1 to 2 years that followed. However, fast forward 8 years later, and I just couldn't fake it anymore. For the years I've been suffering with daily headache pain, untreated depression, nightmares, intrusive memories of the horrors witnessed in Iraq, isolation, night sweats, insomnia, cognitive problems, memory problems, emotional numbness, severe mood swings, dizziness, double vision, and the list goes on. Over the years, I had attempted to get medical help from time to time, but because I looked perfectly normal, I was always sent away. No one would acknowledge that maybe the traumatic brain injury that I had sustained had something to do with all of my problems. In October 2011, after completing a 1-year deployment to Afghanistan, and yeah, I did deploy again after this, I was like a volcano that erupted. My wife and children could no longer stand to bear to be around the monster that I had become, the PTSD monster. I started seeing a psychiatrist, taking multiple medications, had an inpatient psychiatric hospitalization, and was finally told by my doctor that it was time to hang up the uniform. In November of 2012, I was finally moved over to the Warrior Transition Battalion here at Fort Campbell. My nurse case manager, Samantha Crossley, had mentioned NICO to my wife and me. She had a patient go through her program and thought that I would be a perfect candidate. She suggested that the NICO program could help me. Before we knew it, we were on our way to Bethesda, Maryland, to see what NICO had to offer. The National Intrepid Center of Excellence is the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. The medical model at NICO is different. An entire team of providers work together to collaborate on each patient's care. The team included providers from many different specialties. On the first day, I was able to tell my story to the entire staff of medical providers that would be working with me while there. They do this so each patient only has to tell their story one time. The team approach is amazing because they all collaborate and talk about each patient together. This blew my mind because I've never seen nothing in my 15 years in the Army. Over the next 4 weeks, I met with them all individually many times. In 4 weeks' time, I had hearing exams and got 2 hearing aids. I got prism glasses for my double vision, even though I had 20/20 vision. I got a CPAP machine for sleep apnea after I was told I never had it. Braces for my wrist for carpal tunnel, acupuncture. I got an alpha stim machine which sends electric current to my head to help alleviate my headache pain. I got a biofeedback device, and the list just goes on from there. So many different things that they'll give you. In addition to just clinical appointments, NICO also offers other classes and coping skills to help along the way. Some of the classes that I attended and enjoyed most were art therapy, self-advocacy, music therapy, relaxation training, yoga, and biofeedback. The best part of my stay at NICO was being able to get the super MRI, which takes about 41,000 photos of my brain, or a brain. The typical MRI of the brain only takes several hundred pictures. This was an extremely violating experience for me, as I had only had one other CT scan 3 days post-injury back in 2004. No one had ever bothered to do any further imaging of my brain over the years, or even thought that, even though I had requested it. I was told over and over again that it was not necessary. Lo and behold, my wife and I were shown images. For the first time, we were informed that my brain did show scars consistent of a moderate brain injury. I learned that there were spots in both frontal lobes and that I had multiple tiny metal fragments still embedded in my face, scalp, and neck. Never once before in my medical records had anyone used the words moderate brain injury. They would always have concussion or mild traumatic brain injury. To end our stay at NICO, we sat down with my doctor and a few others for my discharge summary. My nurse case manager was on the conference call with the staff and me. My doctor explained everything to her about what they discovered while I was there and what specialties I needed for them to follow up when I got returned. My last day at NICO was May 31st, less than 2 weeks ago. The services at NICO are unparalleled. It has changed my life in ways you cannot imagine. I will never be all better, but I will always be affected by my wart injury. But NICO educated me and my wife, gave me hope, made me believe that I had a chance to improve, gave me the tools to make my symptoms more manageable, and most importantly, showed me that there was real damage to my brain. There was a legitimate reason for my total change in personality. I was not just imagining my symptoms and problems. Thousands more service members from all branches are being plagued by the lasting effects of blast injuries and other psychological health issues. It is imperative that we take our time to start taking better care of our nation's warriors. Traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder are very real and very serious problems. They're only going to get worse as more and more men and women are stepping forward for help every day. Remember, I am just one man. There are thousands of men and women who have similar stories and need the same quality of care that I received. Please don't forget about them. They did not forget about you when they stepped up to the plate to fight for our freedom. Thank you so much for listening and for letting me share my story.
The Senior Mission Commander of the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault and Fort Campbell, Brigadier General Mark R. Stanley.
Good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. A special welcome to all of our distinguished guests. You honor us just with your presence here, but you do more than that. You honor all of our soldiers and families. And to the two gentlemen to my right, thank you both very much for being here today. Epitomize what the best of all of us would like to bring to the Army, for our families and for our soldiers. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here as well. Just as athletes are removed from the game after a head injury and cared for until fully recovered, our leaders must continue to ensure our soldiers are treated fully until they can safely return to duty following head trauma. The Department of Defense and Army Medicine have radically improved our comprehensive traumatic brain injury treatment system to do just that. When Mr. Arnold Fisher asked Army leadership how he could help support service members, efforts began immediately to establish a foundation to support servicemen and women who have experienced a traumatic brain injury as well as post-traumatic stress disorder. Arnold Fisher's successful fundraising efforts through his benevolent Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund have built a national Intrepid Center of Excellence in Bethesda, Maryland, and 2 satellite locations, with Fort Campbell becoming the 3rd. More than 126,000 soldiers have been diagnosed with traumatic brain injury, and more than 70,000 soldiers diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder since 2003. These service members are living with the signature wounds of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. The Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund and the American people are equipping us with the National Intrepid Center of Excellence Satellite Center, the Intrepid Spirit 3, to provide more extensive traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder services to our Fort Campbell soldiers and our families. As we break ground today, we will always remember the remarkable giving spirit of the American people and the unparalleled devotion of the Intrepid Fallen Heroes team making this center possible. Scientific research is the foundation of our policies and practices. It is not only the advances of soldier care, but it also benefits civilian TBI. The strong team already in place at Fort Campbell's Warrior Resiliency and Recovery Center, led by Dr. Brett Logan, has made a huge impact on our soldiers, with 77% of the soldiers who complete the program returning to duty. Staff Sergeant Todd Damaris, who you heard from just previous here, received world-class care at the National Intrepid Center of Excellence in Bethesda, while soldiers such as Sergeant First Class Landon Ranker and Sergeant Ryan Kane, who are among us today, have fully recovered from their injuries after completing the Fort Campbell 12-week brain injury program. All have returned to full active duty. Today we commit to you, the Fisher family, the American people, and the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund, that we'll work better to evaluate and treat service members affected by TBI and PTSD. This new facility you envision for Fort Campbell will work in conjunction with the National Intrepid Center of Excellence to lead the way in interdisciplinary, holistic, warrior, and family-centered care to patients with complex medical care needs, while contributing to and supporting research and education. God bless our soldiers. God bless our families. Air assault.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce a man who is a graduate of the United States Military Academy and a Master Army Aviator, rated in over 19 helicopters with more than 5,000 hours of flight time. He is on the advisory board for Hope for the Warriors, a trustee and novelist.
Okay, that's good. Nice job. I'll finish it up. I'm Vicky Cody's husband and Clinton Tyler's dad. So how's that? Don't worry, I already told Stammer I was going to do this, so you're good to go, boys. Most of these people know me. It's surprising they're here in spite of that. Listen, it's great to be back to Fort Campbell. Bob Cohn, my good friend, thank you for coming this way on short notice. Jim Kelly from NICO, thank you for what you do. There's a great testament right here with Sergeant Damaris, and you're still showing courage here, the same courage you showed on the battlefield. So God bless you, Sergeant. I appreciate everything you and your family have done. Every time I come here, I always like to say hi to Maria. Unfortunately, her husband is deployed. He worked for me 3 different times. He was always deployed when he worked for me, and she used to get mad at me. I didn't deploy him this time. So, anyway, she'd always call, "Don't work for Cody. He deploys you." But Maria, thank you for your leadership and the leadership of the entire Fort Campbell team. This is a special place. All you Casses and the Harpels and the old hawk right there, Ted Crozier, all of you make this a special place. It's the private, public, and military and DA civilians joining together that makes Fort Campbell such a special place for all of us. I'm here on behalf of the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Board. I'm here on behalf of our chairman, Rich Santulli, our honorary chairman, Arnold Fisher, who's called me 3 times. I haven't answered because I know he wanted me to mention a few things, and hopefully I'll mention them, and we'll capture it, and he'll be happy. He wanted to be here, but because of weather and other things, he couldn't make it. I'm also here for Marty Edelman, who also had to cancel because of weather on the East Coast. I'll give you a short pitch, because after hearing Sergeant Damaris, I'm ready to just get the shovel and let's get going. But TBI and PTSD, since the time I was the vice chief and we were looking at this, and not to quibble with numbers, but 300,000+ are afflicted in some shape or fashion across all our services with either mild TBI or PTS that ends up being PTSD. These are our men and women who answered a call of duty after 9/11. They answered a call to duty to support and defend, but more importantly, to defend America on foreign soil. And since that time, it's now our longest war, over 12.5 years, and over almost 2 million have donned this cloth of our nation, have served, and many are afflicted. When this war ends, which it will not end on 2014, because I don't see anybody signing any peace agreements here, But when we withdraw our troops, like we have in Iraq, there's a lot of Americans out there, and everybody wants to put Iraq and Afghanistan in the rearview mirror. So my message to you is, where were you on 9/11 when this all started? And how has your life changed? How has the lives of people that have worn this uniform changed? What's different about your life today that wasn't that way pre-9/11? And then think about our soldiers, the over 300,000 that have some type of PTSD and TBI. Come 2014, this war will not be in their rearview mirror. They'll face it every day. And if we put it in our rearview mirror, shame on us. The Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund was started after 9/11 with the vision of some great Fisher family, as well as a whole bunch of really concerned Americans. It started out to raise money to give to families who were not able to take care of themselves with the stipend at the time, what we call the death gratuity, $12,000. That's how much a family member got when they lost a they lost their soldier. So Arnold Fisher and the board stood it up, and they started doing that. Very quickly, the Senate caught up with this, and we changed the law so the death gratuity and this SGLI and TGLI all came up. Arnold called me up and says, "General, you guys just put us out of business. We've got this money, what can we do? I want to build an amputee center. There's too many amputees that are not being treated." And that's how the Center for the Intrepid got started, built in 16 months. And you've seen what it was able to do with the level of prosthesis and bringing the best and brightest minds together, best of breed. As soon as we had that built, he called me up and he said, "We got to do something about PTSD and TBI. I want to build a center to do the same thing and make this wound visible." Because right now, no one wants to address it. And that's how this all started. And then 16 to 17 months later, we opened up NICO. Dr. Kelly's been in charge of it, done great work, and you're seeing now what's happening. But that's necessary, not sufficient. With the numbers of troops coming back from combat, the numbers of troops that have been suffering, we need to get the satellites out there, these Intrepid Spirits out in a larger catchment area so we can get the best protocols, the best treatment, sharing it back and forth. And that's why we're building these satellites. And we'll deliver the one at Lejeune and the one at Belvoir here this end of this month. We'll build this in less than 12 months. I think that's what Arnold wanted me to say. Less than 12 months. Where's our contractor? Why? Because we're not encumbered by a whole bunch of other things. And we won't be encumbered by the garrison staff. So we're good to go. Oh, geez, you're still here. Checked and found okay. You'll be fine. And we'll deliver it. Why? Because we need to. We need to get it done. Okay? So today's groundbreaking, really, for this NICO satellite, Intrepid Spirit 3, is really another payment to our national debt. Not the national debt you read about. The national debt that the American people and we all owe to our wounded warriors. And we cannot forget them. And so that's what we're doing here today. And all of you need to stand a little taller, look at each other with a lot more respect for what you do to support this type of organization. 99 cents on every dollar that's given to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund goes to these facilities. Out of the generosity of a lot of smart people and rich people who pay the rest of this stuff. Because it's that important. We can't build them fast enough. I'm often asked, as I go around, they say, "General, what can we do for the troops? You know, how can we help?" I used to tell them, I say, live your life as an American citizen worthy of the sacrifices and the pain and suffering of our soldiers and their families. And that's true. We all want to do that. I also say you need to wrap your arms around them and start paying on this national debt we owe. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen,
So some of you may be saying,
that's nice that TRADOC commander's here, but what the hell's he doing here? I'll tell you, this is about two of the most important things that I think we all owe a debt of gratitude. First and foremost, I had the great privilege of serving with the 101st in Afghanistan in 08, 09. I was a C-Stick commander. I needed a lot of help. And every time I called the 101st, the answer was, we'll be there for you. I remember that, and anything this division wants, as far as I'm concerned, it can have from TRADOC at any time. So I'm here because of that. And then I'll tell you, the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund is tremendous. I have experience with it. I used to command 3 Corps in Fort Hood, very close to the facility that they have down there at Brook for amputees. I've seen it in action. I've seen it, what it does for my soldiers, and I'm tremendously excited to be a part of this today in terms of taking that program to the next level for an installation with people on it I care deeply about. Mr. Winters, thank you for inviting me to speak today. Speaking in the presence of soldiers who have given so much in defense of our nation is truly an honor. Furthermore, standing beside those who have come together and ensured the wounded on Fort Campbell will receive first-class care inspires us all. Over 50,000 donors across the country, mostly individuals, support the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. They raised millions of dollars to fund this endeavor. Their commitment and love of soldiers provided us this groundbreaking event, and their efforts offer great promise for the future to heal America's heroes. What they have done and continue to do is truly inspirational. While the members are too numerous to name, a few people have been instrumental in delivering the state-of-the-art care for our wounded warriors today. On behalf of the Secretary of the Army, the Chief of Staff of the Army, Ray Odierno, our soldiers and families, I would like to thank the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund and their Board of Trustees. Specifically, Arnold Fisher, again not here today, Commander Cody, former Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and Mr. Marty Edelman, also unable to be here today. Your grand vision and commitment to our soldiers has been on point from the beginning. We can never thank you enough for what you have done. Here at Fort Campbell, the post leadership, Major General Jim McConville, Brigadier General Mark Stammer, Colonel Paul Kortz, and the Blanchfield Army Community Hospital team worked hand in hand with the Fallen Heroes Fund to plan this facility. The Fort Campbell community, led by the champions of Fort Campbell, was also instrumental. Together, this team will bring this center into operation and quickly realize its full potential. However, today's beginning is not just a random act of kindness. It is the product of dedication to our soldiers. Years ago, Dr. James Kelly, the National Intrepid Center of Excellence Director, saw a need. In his words, we had to make visible what was invisible and restore to wellness the person whose health and interpersonal relationships had been disrupted by the most extreme of life events. This distinguished team formed around that challenge. 5 years ago this month, this vision produced the first groundbreaking ceremony, the National Intrepid Center of Excellence for Psychological Health and Traumatic Brain Injury at the Walter Reed National Medical Center in Bethesda. This 72,000 square foot facility began seeing patients in October 2010, using an interdisciplinary model to treat those complex injuries which include evaluation, family-focused intervention, individualized treatment, and discharge planning. Yet they knew one facility was not sufficient, so they led the effort to build a model support system across our nation. Fort Campbell is the third satellite in this national network. They have planned 6 more centers across the country, including Fort Bragg, Fort Bliss, Fort Hood, and Fort Carson, the places that have carried the heaviest burden in these last 12 years of war. So special thanks go out to all the leaders in this effort for years of vision and stewardship. It is quite humbling to see this all come together. As former Secretary Gates once said, this center represents America's dedication to providing first-class treatment for troops who may be suffering combat-related stress and mental illness. You have provided our wounded heroes what they often lacked in wars gone by, a chance for a full recovery. Finally, I think the groundbreaking today and the promise of this center represents something much larger than the care of our soldiers. Look at some of the warriors who have joined us today. Staff Sergeant Damaris is an inspirational story of recovery. Him, Sergeant First Class Ranker, Sergeant Kane, as well as others, are standard bearers of overcoming the challenges of traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. They will be the first to tell you they did not do this alone. A system that cared about their invisible injuries supported them and their families. In the end, what we start here today is symbolic of what is right in America. A coalition of the caring saw soldiers and rallied to the cause. Across our nation, people replicate their efforts. From Washington to Georgia to Kentucky, you see the breadth of outreach from our nation to its veterans. You see Fisher Houses, Patriot Guards, Rides to Recovery. In Dallas and Bangor, scores and scores of people have come out for over a decade, welcoming warriors home and hugging soldiers before they went off to war. Billions of dollars have been spent to advance life-saving medicine and life-enabling rehabilitation, whether through counseling, treatment, or prosthetics. Americans raised money, built teams, dedicated thousands of hours, and poured their hearts into helping those who bore the human costs of these wars. Anyone in the service today will tell you that he or she cannot walk through a public location in uniform without someone saying, "Thank you for your service." The message for all warriors here today is clear. America stands behind you. There was a time when this was not the case. Yet our nation, led by Vietnam veterans, promised this generation of warfighters that they would be cared for and accorded the respect their sacrifice merited. Less than 1% may serve our military, but America still goes to war as a nation. Today we make another payment on that process. This building will serve as a beacon of unity in our nation. The values it represents rise above politics, social, and economic division. This building will represent what has made America truly exceptional, our boundless sense of caring for those who matter. So let me close by thanking all of you who demonstrate through words and deeds that we remain America's Army. From helmets to hard hats, from head injuries to healing. The Fort Campbell Satellite Center holds great promise for the future. On behalf of your Army, your soldiers, thank you, and may God bless America.